Okay, welcome. So today is our Wednesday Bliss Techniques meeting, and it's nice to have you here. And as usual, we're going to have a guided practice, and it's a guided practice with a healing intention. So I'll invite you, as I have been inviting you, to begin by getting clear on what your intention is, what your healing intention is. So whatever you may have invested some time and energy into getting clarity on this for yourself in a bigger sense. And if so, that's wonderful. And that's very good. And at the same time, I'd like to invite you to approach this in a fresh way. So just really come to this completely empty and just ask yourself within. So just close the eyes and into this deep wisdom within. Ask, what is your intention, your true healing intention? So, what is it that you are here for in this life or in this moment? Hopefully, they align. And this can be whatever it is, as I often point out, because too often we censor ourselves. Often we don't even know we're doing it. And it's because we have judgments, these judgments which we've accumulated, that we've borrowed. And we got them from television and from our parents and from teachers and from spouses and so forth and so on. But if we hold on to all of those judgments and all of those opinions and all of the shoulds and shouldn'ts and all of the ideas about what's right and wrong and good and bad and all of that, then we will be suppressing the simple truth, because the simple truth is just who you are, and it doesn't it doesn't need any of those judgments. The judgments just interfere. So whatever it is, if what's true for you is that you're here to make $1 billion, so be it. Whatever it is, whatever judgments you might have, just be willing to let them go and just accept the goodness of who you are and the goodness at all levels of expression of that truth. And maybe sometimes we're not sure, we don't know how to trust, we haven't tuned into our intuition, and so it's a bit rusty. So if that's happening for you, that's okay. Just be willing to engage in the process sincerely. And the more that you do, the better you will become at it. Like anything in life, it's one of those things. Like I pointed out that one of the principles is that we want to work with nature, not against nature. And so we can observe how does nature work. And one of the ways that we can observe that nature works is that what gets the attention consistently, particularly good attention, that's what grows. So even if we don't know how to do it at first, if we continue to come to it in this open, sincere way with a healing intention, then it will grow. So whatever that intention is, whatever your healing intention is, just affirm the goodness of that. And then I'm going to invite you now to consciously dedicate your practice, this guided practice that we're about to participate in together, to this healing intention. And it may be clear to you how this practice could directly apply, and it may not be clear to you how the practice could directly apply to your intention. If your intention is to make $1 billion, then Sorry, I'm laughing a little bit. I hope that's not your intention, unless it is, in which case I'm glad that it is. But if let's say your intention is to make $1 billion, you might say, well, how on earth is this guided practice we're about to do going to help me with that? And what I want you to know is that this entire reality, everything that we experience, consists of, at a fundamental level, there's this fundamental polarity, which is uh, consciousness and energy. We could call that many other things, use other words, but we'll just use consciousness and energy. So everything, even $1 billion, is consciousness and energy. And so we're working in this guided practice, we're working with the fundamental elements of experience, which are consciousness and energy. So consciousness and energy are the components which give rise to all experience. $1 billion, physical wellness, uh, abundant goodness in relationship, all kinds of experience are energy and consciousness. So by working at this level, we can address anything and everything. Okay. So for our practice today, I should have told you this up front, but it will be great if you can have some space on the floor, which as usual, we want it to be reasonably comfortable. So probably some amount of padding. And so enough space that ideally you could lie down and stretch out and kind of take up the space. But if you don't have that, which I don't in my life, unless I'm outside, which I understand, then you make do with whatever you have. So you can absolutely participate in the practice and take and receive the full benefits regardless of the exact circumstances. But if you do have the space that you can make for yourself on the floor, that would be great. We're going to do a little bit of sitting. So if you're not comfortable sitting on the floor, then you might want a chair. Or you could alternately just lie down if you're not comfortable sitting on the floor. So, but to begin with, if it's comfortable for you, we'll sit up, and we're going to do a little bit of a grooming practice. This is something that it's inspired by Annie Tho, who many of you have heard me speak of before. I very much appreciate her work. You can find her on YouTube and also on Patreon. And she does Feldenkrais and nature-themed healing explorations. And she starts most of her practices with a simple grooming practice, which I think I've come to really appreciate. So we'll do that together. So we're going to use our hands, and we're just going to stroke the head and back down and along the sides of the neck, and then just down the chest. And we'll just do that several times together. So at your own pace, whatever's comfortable for you. And now, of course, you could do this mindlessly, and it would probably still be beneficial. But the more mindful you can be, the more you can receive the healing that's here, the better. So really be aware of the contact of your hands on the head and how you move the hands. So the hands don't just move on their own. They're obviously connected to the arms. The arms are connected to the shoulders. The shoulders are connected to the torso. So the whole self is involved in this movement. So be somewhat playful with it. How do you do it? Don't just do it in some sort of rigid mechanical way. Be aware of how you do it and be willing to experiment a little bit. You could try doing with the elbows forward. That might be interesting, not maybe the easiest way, but you could try that. You could try it with the elbows way out. so that the chest is very open. You could try it somewhere in the middle. And feel how the contact of the hands is being made. So can you let the palms and the fingers really be open so that you can really feel the whole hand making contact? And maybe you get to the ears and you're not sure what, you go above the ears, you go behind the ears, what do you do? So find out. You could try going over the ears. There's not a one right way. There's many different ways that you can experiment with. And so now feel your head and neck, spine, and notice if you're aware maybe of the connection. A lot of the time our head feels like for many of us, it's just sort of up there without any connection to the rest of us. And such a simple exercise, but maybe you notice it helps to connect your sense of the whole self, so that the head is connected to the neck, is connected to the shoulders, is connected to the rest of the spine. So now let's take our fingers and give ourselves a little bit of a massage on the ears. So you can do it any way that you like, but I'll give you some for those who have never been initiated into the fine art of ear massage. I will give you some tips. So you can start by grasping your earlobes and just sort of gently squeezing and tugging them, letting the fingers just sort of slide. So you're just sort of tugging and sliding the fingers on the earlobes. And then you could just sort of roll them between your fingers. And so you're gonna get a finger in there on the inside of the ear and grasp, and then the other finger is behind, and you can just sort of roll. And a lot of people have a tremendous amount of tension in the ears because a lot of things come together here. So if it feels, you might have a lot of sensation, but know that it can feel good. So even if it doesn't feel so great to begin with, know that to the degree that it doesn't feel good, there's a lot of potential for improvement. So then you can kind of go up, same kind of thing, just sort of rolling and sliding up behind the ears, and then coming up over the tops of the ears and getting all of this, the big flappy parts at the top, kind of really make sure that you're getting those really nicely massaged. So same kind of thing, you can sort of tug a little bit, you can roll with the fingers. And now what we can do is we'll do a series of gentle pulling. So let's start by pulling down. So the ear lobes, and we'll pull slightly down, and then just gently nod the head. Just a little bit up and a little bit down. Nothing big, just a little bit as you're just pulling down. Now, this shouldn't hurt, so if it hurts, don't do that. And then pull out on the earlobes, and then the same kind of nodding. You could also turn side to side. I'm seeing that. Looks like my left ear. You see that? My left ear has a lot more give than my right. It's interesting. I don't even have a mirror, so I don't usually see myself. And then the middle portion of the ear kind of just pull out, and you can side to side and up and down a little bit. You can even do some circles, both directions. And then up, we'll get the top parts of the ears and kind of pull up and out a little bit. And same thing, just nodding and turning. Okay. So relax the hands. And let's just close the eyes and again, tune into the head, the neck, shoulders, and notice the sense of connection. And then start to let go of the low-hanging fruit, whatever it is that you can discover and make conscious and voluntarily release. So not striving for perfection, but just whatever you can. So hopefully you're in a good posture for you. And if you're not, then you're going to become aware of that very rapidly. So help yourself by getting into a good posture, whatever that is for you. So it could be sitting, it could be lying down, it could be sitting on a chair, it could be sitting on the floor. But a way in which you can feel really connected, supported. And then again, let go of whatever the low-hanging fruit is. So be aware, I'll just suggest some areas to you. Be aware of the upper back and the shoulders. And a lot of the time we are doing a lot of holding a lot of tension there. So just let go. You know, a lot of the time we have a lot of ideas about how we should be, what our posture should be. But the shoulds don't usually work out so well for us. So just be willing to let that go and tune in to the support that's here. Trust that nature's design is in you. The fullness of nature, the intelligence of nature it is within you, and its perfection and wisdom is in you. So you can surrender to that and allow yourself to be supported both outwardly and inwardly, so that you can really start to feel that support. So let's bring some attention to the breath and be sure, if possible, to breathe through the nose. So as much as possible, please do breathe through the nose. Now, if for some reason that is difficult for you, we don't want it to be stressful. So don't force anything that's stressful. But do see how much you can breathe through the nose. So if you have to only breathe through the nose once every 3 breaths or something like that, at least do that. As much as possible, breathe through the nose. So as we often do, we'll take a few moments just to tune into the breath and notice that the breath consists of inhalations and exhalations and the transitions between. So as you inhale, notice the quality of that experience. Notice the sensations. Notice where the sensations are. Notice the qualities of the sensations. So what's the temperature, speed? What are the emotions and thoughts that occur? And then similarly with the exhalations, notice the quality of that. So there's obviously a difference between inhalation and exhalation. And conceptually, we know that the difference is that the inhalation, the air is coming in, and the exhalation, the air is going out. But in terms of our direct experience, how do we distinguish between inhalation and exhalation? It's not a conceptual distinction. It's an experiential distinction. So you have to tune into, how do you know when you're inhaling and how do you know when you're exhaling? And really let the breath be natural. So there are a lot of practices that we can do, a lot of different styles of breathing. They all have potential merits, but right now, just allow for the natural breath. Don't try and breathe in a particular way. Just breathe in the way that is best for you in this moment. And how would you know what that is? Well, it's what feels good. Now, hopefully, you have some general sense of what might feel good. If that seems so distant to you that you don't even know where to begin, then I'll suggest to you, just allow it to be gentle. So allow the breath to be relaxed. Find out how much is necessary and breathe that much and not more. In every respect, volume, speed. And again, it shouldn't be, this isn't about reducing the breath to the absolute minimum, because that would end up becoming a little bit stressful. It's about finding the perfect balance, whatever that is in this moment, so that it starts to actually feel good. Okay, so we'll do a little bit more with that in a moment, but we'll have a little interlude where we're going to do a little bit of tongue movement. So our tongues are very important, but we often don't think about them or have much awareness of the tongue unless, I guess, it hurts or is uncomfortable. But the tongue, you're aware perhaps of the tip of the tongue, so you can bring your attention to the tip of the tongue. And then somewhere in there is the middle of the tongue. We're maybe not quite sure where that is, but you kind of have a sense it's somewhere further back from the tip of the tongue is the middle of the tongue. But how far back does the tongue go? What's the root of the tongue? Well, it turns out the tongue goes all the way down into the throat. So the tongue attaches down into the throat. There's a floating bone called the hyoid bone. And the tongue attaches there, as do a whole bunch of other muscles, small muscles, that help to stabilize and move this hyoid bone, which we use for a lot of things, like swallowing, for example. Well, if we have tension, sensory motor amnesia in any of these muscles, in any of the hyoid, the muscles that connect to the hyoid bone, then it's going to tend to produce a complex of tension. So that will limit our movement of the tongue. That's going to cause us a whole lot of symptoms, many of which we might not connect to it right away. So we're going to explore some tongue movements. So first thing is just slightly let the mouth open in a relaxed way. So we're not trying to force it open, just let it relax open. And then we're going to just stick the tongue out. And then retract the tongue so that it comes to rest in the lower jaw. And we're just going to do that many times slowly and try to do it as smoothly as possible. So you're going to slowly stick the tongue out. So it will slide over the teeth and over the lip and then down. Let it just hang down. And then retract it. Now we're not trying to pull it all the way back. So we can actually pull the tongue back further, retract it further from just the resting neutral position, but we're not doing that right now. Just bringing it back to neutral just to rest. And then sticking the tongue out. Now, as you're doing this, you might have a tendency to, you may not, but some people may have a tendency to move the jaw. But here we want to just move the tongue. So just see, can you just relax the jaw? And if you're not sure, you could just place a hand, some fingers on the jaw. Just to gently be aware of if there's a tendency to move the jaw, because the jaw can come forward and back. But we just want to leave the jaw in a relaxed, neutral position. Well, some people have a tendency, just when they open the mouth, to push the jaw forward. So when you're opening the mouth, just let it relax open. Don't jut the jaw forward. And then just keep it there in that relaxed position as you move the tongue forward and backward. So you can rest the tongue now. You close the mouth if that's comfortable, and just notice whatever you notice. Okay, let's try that again. And this time we're gonna so same thing, you're gonna just let the jaw relax open. So it's not we're not trying to maximally open the jaw. We're just relaxing it open. Which means if you're not sure about that, you do like the Home Alone thing or the Scream, either one. Do that with your hands and just let them slide down, because you've got these muscles here that need to relax. So just let the jaw open. Okay, so we're going to let the jaw open, and then we're going to take a hand and bring it to the throat. I have all this hair here so you can't see, but you're going to see if you can find the hyoid bone. You may not be able to find it, but if you're a man, you have a fairly protruding or more obvious what we call the Adam's apple. That's the thyroid cartilage that's there. The hyoid bone is above that. So above, if you're not a man, you still have the cartilage, it's just not as prominent, but you can still find it. It's above that. And if you can't find it exactly, that's okay. You could also just swallow. You might feel that bone move. If you can't find it exactly, that's okay. Just generally in that area. And you're just going to place the hand there. And with a gentle pressure, obviously you don't want to give yourself a choking sensation, but just gentle pressure so you can feel whatever you can feel there. And then we're going to do the same movement with the tongue and just see if you notice any movement there. And just see how you could experiment with exaggerating the movement of the hyoid bone, see if you can exaggerate the movement, and then see if you can minimize the movement of the hyoid bone as you're moving the tongue. Now, let's also, same position, let's also see now if we can bring the tongue further back. So we're going to just repeat bringing the tongue further back, like down into the throat, and then releasing to neutral. And you will very likely feel the hyoid bone moving. In fact, the whole larynx will lower when you do this, most likely. Because this movement is, as far as I understand it, at least, my possibly faulty understanding, but I believe that in order to do this movement, the whole mechanism has to move. The hyoid bone actually is being drawn down, pulling the tongue down, rather than the tongue isn't, I don't believe, really doing the movement by itself. So then you can stick the tongue out and come to neutral, and then retract further, and then come to neutral, and stick the tongue out and come to neutral, and do that several times. That's full sequence. Well, I have a little bit of a hard time not retracting the jaw at the same time. So obviously some room for improvement for me. And there's going to, almost everybody is going to find that this is not going to be a familiar kind of movement for you. So that's okay. It just means there's room for improvement. Okay, relax. Let the hand come to rest and let the tongue rest. Breathe. And now let's do a little bit more tongue movement. So we've moved the tongue in one plane, so to speak, but we can obviously do more with the tongue. So let's circle the tongue in a particular way, and I'll describe it. So I'll describe it first, then I'll demonstrate it, and then we'll do it together. So what we're gonna do is we're going to stick the tongue between the upper lip and the front teeth. And then we're going to circle it clockwise. You can do it either way. We will do it both ways, but we'll start clockwise. So you're going to, well, okay, that would be clockwise. So you imagine there's a clock face on your face. Tongue will be moving clockwise. Okay. So we'll start between the upper lip and the front teeth. We'll move, staying between the teeth and the lip. It's going to move to the left, then down between the lower lip and the teeth, then to the right, and then to the starting point again. So we're going to do that. We'll do it like 5 times one direction and then 5 times the other direction, and see, can you do it in a good way. And uh, this is an exercise that's traditionally done to help to stimulate the production of saliva. And so you may find that it stimulates the production of saliva, and see if you cannot swallow the saliva until after you've completed the full set of movements. And if you find that difficult, then you can rest at any time. So once you have completed that, then you rest, and we're going to do it again. And this time when we do it, be aware of what else is moving or tensing. So can you move your tongue without moving and tensing the neck, for example? So again, do this same movement, 5 one direction, 5 the other direction, and do it slowly and smoothly, and see, can you do it without moving or tensing anything else? Okay, so if you haven't completed, then that's fine. You take your time. So now we've done all of this very kind of calm and relaxing stuff. We'll continue to do calm and relaxing. So if it's comfortable for you, then come onto all fours on the floor. So hands and knees, and continuing to breathe with awareness through the nose. And we're going to do a couple of the cat-cow sequence. So you're going to be on all fours, hands and knees, and you're going to, you can do it in coordination with the breath or not, but just be sure that you're breathing in a comfortable way. And you're going to come into the cow, which is that you allow the spine to bow so that your chest moves forward and your head is moving up, but it's a whole continuous movement of the spine. So the head's not just flinging up, but the whole spine is moving so that you can feel it from the head all the way to the tailbone. And then come into the cat, which is where you move in the opposite direction. So as if you're pushing the floor away and your spine curves so that the back goes up toward the sky. And again, it's the whole spine. So the head and the tailbone are part of that. So let the head move with that general arc of the spine. So you're not holding the head up, but letting the head relax down. So alternate between those two a few times, as long as it's comfortable for you. And if not, then obviously you shouldn't be doing it. And remember that you can rest anytime that you need. So we're just breathing through the nose and alternating between this cat and cow, and see how pleasurable can this be. So sometimes we can do things and we're not doing them in the best way. And I'm wondering, why would we do that? Why would we do anything not in the best way? If we accept that it's possible that we could be experiencing pleasure in every activity, then why wouldn't we be experiencing pleasure in every activity? And the only reason why not, well, two reasons. One is ignorance, and the other is because we're just not bothering to. So let's be bothered to experience the pleasure, and let's not be ignorant of the fact that we can experience pleasure. Let's affirm that I can experience pleasure. That's possible. It's actually my birthright, and I can choose that now. So now, as you're doing this, really be aware of your abdomen. Be aware of your whole self, but in particular, bring some attention to the abdomen and notice, are you holding unnecessary tension in the abdomen? So maybe, for example, when you're doing the cat position, maybe it needs to be some tone in the abdomen. Maybe not as much as you have. And when you're doing the cow, probably not nearly as much, as much tension as you have. So find out, how much can you soften. So it's not about being flabby and just sort of like flopping around. But if we're artificially tight for holding unnecessary tension in the abdomen, then we're robbing ourselves of our potential. So there's this is the center of gravity. It's what Hannah calls the somatic center in Chinese martial arts and inner arts. This is the location of the lower dantian. So we want to be able to access and feel this, because this is our power center. So can you actually start to feel that you can do the movement from this area without tensing it up unnecessarily? Can you let this area remain as open as possible throughout and allow the movement to originate from here within the lower abdomen? Now, with that in mind, continuing to have that in mind, let's slowly rock forward and backward on our hands and knees. And as you're slowly rocking forward and backward, keep in mind that the basic movements that we've just explored, the cat and cow, are at play here, because as you're rocking forward, you have to, in order to do this in a good way, you have to let the chest open, you have to let the spine bow a little bit. So we're going to be looking forward. We're on, I didn't mention that to begin with, but we're on our hands and knees. So the soma has a face. It's wants to look where it's going. When you're on all fours, you're in a crawling position, so you want to look forward. So let the whole spine participate in that. And as you're rocking forward, the chest opens up, the head has to come up a little bit more, and the spine bows a little bit more. And as you rock back, comes more into a neutral. And as you're doing this, see if maybe you can allow yourself to slowly rock back a little bit more each time, only if it's comfortable and only if you feel confident in that. But see, can you come back so much, maybe that you can actually let your buttocks rest on your heels? And if you can, then allow yourself to come all the way back into this child's pose so that your heels are, you're sitting on your heels and your hands can stay on the floor where they are. Maybe your chest comes down onto the thighs. Maybe not. So remember that you don't have to do everything that I suggest, and you certainly should not if it's not appropriate for you. So if that's not something that you're going to do, then find a good posture. Well, you can do anything really. So you could continue to explore any of the things that we've done so far, because those are all excellent healing things that you can do. Or you could just take a nap. So you've got a lot of possibilities. But for those who are able and interested in continuing with the sequence, if you can come all the way back into child's pose, then see if you can also then really allow yourself to come into rest here, and then bring your hands from in front of you to behind you, so to speak, so that they come to rest, palms face up on the floor near to your hips. So if that's something that you're able to do, then then do so. And if not, then you can keep the hands forward if that's more comfortable for you. So here, let's do a few movements with the head. So we'll start just by slowly rolling the head up and down. It's going to be a small movement, so don't exaggerate it. Could be a very, very small movement. That would be okay. You could just imagine the movement. That would be okay. But your forehead is on the floor, and you're just going to be rolling the forehead. So the forehead stays in contact, but you're just rolling it like your head's like a bowling ball, and you're just rolling it like you're just gently nodding the head just a little bit. And as you do this, notice that the head, as always, is connected to the spine all the way down to the pelvis. So in order to nod your head, your pelvis is moving. And see, can you do the movement with awareness of that lower abdomen? Also the 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 lower back. So a lot of the time we've got a lot of tension and rigidity in the lower abdomen and lower back, and so we don't access that power, and so we hurt, we feel weak. And so something as simple as just this small movement of the head can feel very difficult, painful even. So obviously don't hurt yourself. Remember, you're responsible for your experience, so take good care of yourself. That's one of those important life lessons that we're here to learn, is how to take good care of ourselves. So in life, sometimes people are going to suggest things, and it's up to you to determine how to take good care of yourself. So if it's not for you, don't do it. But if you're able to do this, really feel, can you do the movement with awareness of the lower back and the lower abdomen, and allow for a subtle mobility there that allows you to free up the whole self so that the head can now start to move. And the head is moving really by way of this lower dantian, let's call it. So that you're not thinking so much about the head moving as much as you're moving the lower dantian, or you're moving the pelvis. Okay. So now, what about side to side? So as if you're going to look to the left and you're going to look to the right. So you're going to keep the forehead in contact, but you're going to roll it side to side. Again, small movement. So don't try and do the world's biggest movement. Keep it small and feel here too. How can you do this movement from the lower dantian? How can you do it from the lower back? How can you do it from the pelvis? So that you're really doing this in the best way. So you'll notice that when the head is going to turn, the whole spine has to turn. So feel how to do that. And then when you're ready, we're going to come to a final resting posture. So that will be up to you what that is. It could be sitting or it could be lying down. It could be standing. But find a posture that will be here for 5 minutes or so. So one that you can really feel supported in for about 5 minutes. And we're going to breathe through the nose, at least as long as that is as much as is possible for you. And close the eyes if that's comfortable for you. And as you're breathing, as we did before, be aware of the inhalation and the exhalation. And breathe naturally. Breathe pleasurably so that every inhalation is absolutely perfectly satisfying. And every exhalation is relaxed. So there's no force in the breath at all. Let the face be relaxed. Let the tongue be relaxed. Let go of the low-hanging fruit. Feel yourself supported here. Allow yourself to really be grounded, rooted. And if it's comfortable for you, you can put the hands on the lower abdomen. If that's not comfortable for you, then you needn't do it. But do bring your attention to the lower abdomen. And with each inhalation, allow the inhalation to descend into the lower abdomen. So it's a visualization, it's an intention. Don't try to force anything, just with the intention. Allow for the inhalation to descend to the lower abdomen. And feel that as that occurs, that the lower abdomen is expanded from within. It's comfortable, relaxed, no force. It's just through your intention. But you should start to feel that space, an openness. And notice that as you allow for that, that you can allow for the exhalation to continue that same openness and expansion. So you're not contracting on the exhalation, you're allowing for that same the energy to concentrate in the lower abdomen. So the inhalation, you allow for the breath to descend to the lower abdomen. With the exhalation, you allow for that same spaciousness to remain there. And as that becomes more comfortable for you, you can allow for that sense of expansion to start to move and distribute through the rest of the body so that you can start to actually feel with each inhalation that all of the joints of the body are gently being opened. So you can feel perhaps your shoulders opening. So you're not forcing anything, just with the breath. As you inhale, you can feel the shoulders, the shoulder joint opening. And as you exhale in a relaxed way, you can feel that the shoulder joint continues to be open, that the elbows open, the wrists open, all the joints in the hands and fingers open. You can feel that each of the vertebrae, the space between the vertebrae, is opening. All the way up the neck, all the way to the skull, so that the space between the skull and the uppermost vertebrae is opening. The hip sockets are opening. The knees are opening. So there's just a little bit more space. The ankles, the feet, and the toes. So now your whole body, all the joints are open just through intention and through the breath. And now all of that healing energy can flow and distribute through the whole self. So as we complete this guided practice, just allow for all of that healing energy to flow and circulate through the whole body. And recall your healing intention for the practice today. And give thanks that it is so. So be willing to receive the fulfillment of your healing intention. We've taken all this time to open things and cultivate this healing energy and allow it to circulate. So the work has been done. all that we need to do now is continue to receive it. So as you are, well, presently, and as you continue through your day and days ahead, keep noticing any ways in which you have a tendency not to allow for the healing, because we have habits of shutting down the healing. So we want to be aware, just be aware of those habits. And anytime you notice, just give thanks that you've noticed, and then just allow yourself to be open and receive. So now that you've done this practice, you have some experience, big or small as it may be, of this opening of the joints, of allowing for the circulation of the healing energy. So you can return to that anytime if you notice that you've closed down, that you've shut down the healing. Just take a moment just to breathe through the nose. And as you inhale, let the breath descend into the lower abdomen and open. And then as you exhale, allow for that same openness to remain. And then bring that through the whole, that opening of the whole self through the whole body. And it only takes a few minutes, but then you'll feel that you've allowed for that healing to continue. So you don't have to do as much hard work. You just have to not close down. That's all. So that's it for the guided practice today. For those who are here live, we can stay on for the Q&A, and for everybody else, that's it. So do, whether you're going to move on to something else now or later, in any case, just be sure to do it mindfully. Just make the transition one that you do with awareness and gentleness. So I'm going to end this recording.